3 years ago, we visited id Software in Texas to film our documentary on Doom 2016. If you like Noclip stuff, you probably knew that. But what you probably didn't know is that while we were there, we filmed 3 interviews around the history of Quake and their then upcoming shooter, Quake Champions. Sadly, we never finished filming that project, and so a bunch of interviews, including one with Quake veteran Tim Willits, sat on our hard drives for the next 3 years. So long that Tim has since shipped Rage 2 and left id Software to become Chief Creative Officer at Saber Interactive. But then we noticed that this month, Quake III, one of the greatest online shooters ever made, turned 20 years old, so what a perfect excuse to dive back into the archive and resurrect this interview. So for fans of gothic horror, sci-fi shooters, and bipedal multiplayer eyeballs, here is our interview with Tim Willits about the history of the Quake franchise.
Really, Doom 2 existed because we wanted to commercialize Doom more and get it into retailers. Back then, it was a natural progression in gaming to work on a new title. That's what id Software did for years. The Quake engine was true 3D, which had a whole number of issues that we had to overcome. From how do we create levels? How do we steer players? How do we create these environments? So we were tackling those technical challenges at the same time that we were developing the technology and the game. So keeping with the very flat structure of id Software at the time, it really was very loose. We knew we wanted to make it dark, powerful weapons, some Lovecraftian inspirations, but that was really kind of the game design. John Carmack used to always say that teleporters are a crutch for bad level design. You could extend that a little farther to say that slipgates was a crutch for bad game design. Because we had very little creative direction, we just kind of all went in our own direction. There were 4 principal level designers that created their own kind of unique style. So we were like, okay, we have 4 Elder Gods, and we have 4 runes, and we have 4 episodes. If we had 5 level designers, we probably would have had 5 episodes in ruins, and then we just stuck the slipgates around and made it all kind of worked and washed our hands. You can see parallels to a lot of the enemies in Doom in Quake. Like, the demon in Quake was obviously the Piki from Doom. Death Knight was the Hell Knight. But because we had so much freedom, and because there was such of a lack of kind of unified creative direction, Kevin Cloud and Adrian Carmack really went wild with the creatures, especially the ogre. He's got a chainsaw and a grenade launcher. Grenade bouncing was definitely new. It was very difficult at first because even strafing wasn't really something that people did. So when things were bouncing, actually, it threw us off as developers. It threw people off as players, and then to have an AI, have a monster that does that, is like, ugh.
Is there any enemy types that didn't make the cut, perhaps, in Quake 1? Can you even cast your mind back that far?
Yes, the dragon.
Oh, right.
Yes, remember?
Yes, the screenshot.
The famous screenshot.
Yeah.
That's when game developers just put screenshots up before actually thinking we should actually put this up. So we made a model, just kind of placed it in the world, and went, this is gonna be awesome. This is a dragon flying over this castle. Screenshot, release. And no one ever thought, hey, should we actually get this working? Is it fun? Dragon AI is really tough. The Quake franchise definitely has always kind of suffered from a little identity crisis. And honestly, we were not actually going to call Quake II Quake II. One of the guys in the team proposed the word war, W-O-R, because it's the war with strong versus the humans, which in hindsight, we probably should have done that. We probably should have had Quake 1 be Quake, and then Quake 2 be war, and then Quake 3 be Quake 2, and then Quake 4 become War 2, and we'd have two franchises. Instead, we have Quake Confusion. We had something amazing with Quake, but the story was all over the place. So we really wanted to focus the design, we wanted to focus the story, we wanted to make the game more engaging, which is how the story came about. It's really a parallel to the Guns of Navarone, the old movie. where the Allies have to destroy the guns, so the Allies could land on Beachhead during World War II. That was really the entire inspiration and story of Quake II. And then the Strogg concept, which was another desire to unify the creatures. Like in Quake, the creatures were all over the place. It's not so great for a single-player, story-driven type game. Yes, Paul Steed came up with the grenades. He was our only animator at the time, so he animated all of the Strogg and gave him that personality. Like the Enforcer would go like this, and then you could shoot his head off. But yes, grenades, and you could throw them. Yes, that was pretty advanced gameplay at the time. I watched the movie Eraser, if you remember, with Arnold Schwarzenegger. Yes, and I thought that was a cool movie. Came into work the next day, and John Cash was the programmer working on the weapons, and I said, hey, let's make, it's like a rocket launcher, but it's instant. And then we'll make a twisty thing just like the movie Eraser. Shit. But what really set Quake II apart was the explosion of multiplayer mods. The grapple hook was the greatest invention for any Quake game that we never came up with. And there were so many mods for Quake II that the multiplayer took on a life of its own. You'd find the newest mod, you'd download it, you'd play a different type of game. So it always offered something new because of the explosions of the mod scene. So John Carmack came to the design team with a concept, a multiplayer-only game with persistent worlds. You have your kind of home world, and then you'd fight for your elder god. He was always into the elder gods. You could fight for your elder god, and then you could kind of attack other worlds and things, and you could jump through these gates to these other worlds.
You have taken the lead, excellent.
So when we proposed to our publisher, Activision at the time, that we wanted to make a game that required a graphics card in your machine, they told us that we were insane and that it was the worst idea ever.
What was it like knowing that Epic were releasing a game within the same window that didn't require an OpenGL graphics card?
You know what, I've never really worried about competitions. We used to say that we don't need other games to suck to make our games good. So even at that time, playing those games, I played them. I know the guys that work there, they're all great guys. And I think it actually helped us. It actually helped the industry, and it helped our games even be better.
Excellent.
Most of the item placement in the original Quake 3 was with luck. Yeah, we moved things. We kept the rocket launcher away from the red armor.
Right, yeah.
But really all the subtle things that people are like, you guys are geniuses. No, we just put it down and it worked. So the origins of that map was a bet. It was a QA guy that came down from Activision. So he came down and I said, I could make a map from start to finish in under an hour. So I made that map in about 50 minutes.
I think that map might have the world record for the fastest possible flag capture. You can do it in 6 seconds or something.
Yeah, probably faster than that. You could probably, yes, because you can pick up the flag, rocket jump, hit. Yeah, you could probably do it in 2.5 seconds. Like DM13, DM6, the longest yard. Those are the true classics that have withstood the test of time. But we had no idea. That's one of the things about creating these games and these levels is you don't know what people are going to really like. You don't know the levels that will go on to become classics. And it's always surprising once the game gets out there in the world and people play it, what rises to the top and what people like and what people don't like. So Team Arena was a team-based version of Quake 3. And if you have 12 to 20 people that are about the same skill level and are playing on a LAN that can easily talk, Team Arena is the greatest game ever. So we created this game that we thought was the most amazing thing ever made that only we liked. And because once we got it out there, you get onto a server and you got you and your buddy and you got like 16 other people acting like idiots. You couldn't talk to them very well, all these different skill gaps. And also, at the time, there were so many Quake 3 mods that were like, hey, we made this. You should buy this. People are like, what? I gotta buy something? So it did suffer, but it was the greatest game ever made just for us. So Quake 4 was pitched right when we finished Doom 3. And we saw how long Doom 3 took to make, and we were changing the technology, and we had our own internal plans. And the Quake franchise at that point had become a little long in the tooth. Quake 3 was it's still insanely popular. So we didn't want to replace that. So we thought, well, let's go back to Quake 2. More single player focused because we had the multiplayer. And we had worked with Raven for a long time, and Raven has been a licensee of our technology for years. They're great guys. So we worked together with Raven, we came up with the idea, it's a continuation of the story. So I do think we have a lot of fans that do like that single player experience, that are very comfortable in the Quake 4 universe. Quake Live was the great experiment. The idea was you download it for free, you play in a browser, everyone's got a browser, you don't have to install anything, and we would make money by selling ad space. One of the problems that we quickly realized is that you actually have to look at the ads. So we put an ad up, near the yellow armor, and people are like, oh, I get the yellow armor, go. And our ad stats were like 0.05 seconds, which is, you can't even read the ad, the amount of time that person actually looked at it. The people paying for the ads were like, okay, you guys, they need to look at our ads and they need to occupy a size that's appropriate. So that ran counter into what the game was. So we thought, we'll just have ads and load screens. And then the internet ad folks, they were all falling apart at the time.
Right.
They were just collapsing, and we had millions of people that played the game, and it's shocking. Then we thought, well, let's shift it. Let's make it a little more standalone, and then we'll have a free version, and then we'll have a subscription version, which worked out well, and it made money. And then we eventually moved it up to Steam, and then retired it. So it was really kind of one of the first free-to-play games ever. People have it, it's available. We've kind of sunsetted the service part of it, but there's still a great community. Doom was insanely influential, but I personally believe if you look at what Quake did, it was actually our most influential game that id Software's ever made. From true 3D engine, client server architecture, to explosion of mods, to competitive gaming. It really influenced so much of what we play today.
Thanks so much for watching this video, and thanks to all the people on screen right now for supporting our work here at Noclip, and the thousands more whose names aren't in the credits. We couldn't have done all the work we did in 2019 without you, and we've got some massive plans for 2020, including filming a bunch of stuff here at our brand new studio that we've set up. So we're really excited to get a bunch more documentaries out and a bunch more smaller interview type stuff as well in 2020. So if you want to be along for the ride, make sure you're subscribed to this channel, and if you want to help us build this studio and do even more, then please consider becoming a patron.